Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are really grabbing our biochemical magnifying glass. We're zooming right in on the absolutely fundamental molecules that run your body, essential micronutrients.
That's right. And for you, the learner, this is really a deep dive into fundamental cell biology. We're not just, reciting facts. We're analyzing the biochemical functions, how these tiny molecules act as coenzymes, as structure builders, and as protectors. Our goal is clarity, scientific depth.
Okay, so let's set the mission. We're going to trace energy through the B vitamin assembly line. Then we'll uncover the structural secrets of vitamin C, maybe its partner vitamin E, and then delve into that electrical dance of sodium and potassium, and finally, look at how iron brokers oxygen across the entire system.
Let's start right there with energy, the B-complex vitamins. Well, collectively, they're the master catalysts of catabolism.
The process of breaking things down for fuel.
Exactly. And that's why their synergy is so important. They function as a coordinated network. A shortage in one can literally block an entire pathway.
So we can't just talk about them one by one in isolation.
Precisely. You really can't. For example, if you're deficient in, say, riboflavin, that's B2, you cannot activate pyridoxine, B6. So even if you have enough B6 floating around, it's just useless.
And that's where we can trace the energy flow. Let's talk thiamine, B1. It's called the carboburner, and it's coenzyme, thiamine pyrophosphate, or TPP. That's basically mission control for the cell's power grid.
It is. TPP is mandatory for converting pyruvate into acetyl-CoA.
And if that step gets blocked?
Well, if it's blocked, pyruvate backs up, and the cell can't feed its main furnace, the TCA cycle, and the electron transport chain. And because brain cells and nerves rely almost entirely on glucose, this blockage has immediate and really severe consequences. This buildup of metabolic junk, it starves the central nervous system of energy. It's what leads to things like Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is, it's just severe neurological deterioration.
It shows how a tiny molecular blockage can create a huge systemic failure. And just to show the interconnection, you mentioned minerals are needed for vitamin activation. Magnesium is actually required to convert thiamine into that active TPP coenzyme, right?
Yes, that's a classic nutritional insight. When you refine grains like milling brown rice into white rice, you're not just stripping away the thiamine, you're also removing a huge chunk of the original magnesium. So you're hitting that energy system with a double whammy, a double deficiency right from the start.
Okay, let's move on to that critical partnership between folate, B9, and B12. We know they're both essential for DNA synthesis and making healthy red blood cells.
Right, which is why deficiencies can lead to that megaloblastic anemia. But folate's primary job is all about one-carbon unit transfers. Its active form, tetrahydrofolate, or THF, it's like a little delivery truck. It carries these one-carbon groups that you need to build DNA bases and amino acids.
And what about the high-stakes detox role they share?
That involves homocysteine. If this stuff builds up, it's pretty toxic. It's associated with vascular damage. So folate and vitamin B12, along with B6, are absolutely essential for converting homocysteine into useful, harmless amino acids like cysteine and methionine.
It keeps the metabolic pathways running clean.
Exactly.
Now, B12 is famous for being difficult to absorb. Can you walk us through the key stages?
It is slow and it's very complex. It's a three-part process. First, in the stomach, you need hydrochloric acid and pepsin to free the B12 from the protein it's bound to in your food. Second, it has to bind to another protein called intrinsic factor, which is made by your stomach lining.
And only then can it actually be absorbed.
Only then. And that happens much later, way down in the small intestine. If any part of that pathway fails, say low stomach acid, you just can't absorb B12.
And this is the exact reason for the public health warning around supplemental folate, isn't it? The tolerable upper intake level is set at 1,000 micrograms a day.
That warning is crucial. It's there to prevent masking an underlying B12 deficiency.
How does it do that?
Well, if you mask the anemia, which is a key symptom of B12 deficiency, with high doses of folate, the patient might look better on a blood test. But they're still developing progressive, and I mean irreversible neurological damage. B12 is essential for maintaining the myelin sheath, the coating around nerve cells.
So the folate fixes the blood picture, but the actual nerve damage just keeps on going completely unchecked.
Completely unchecked. It's a serious clinical concern.
Okay, moving from the energy engine to structural integrity, let's talk about vitamin C. What's fascinating to me is that we as humans literally can't make it ourselves.
We can't. We, along with other primates and guinea pigs, we lack the final enzyme in that synthetic chain. It's called gulonolactone oxidase, so we have to get it from our diet. every day. And its structural role is
Yeah.
it's non-negotiable. It's all about collagen.
Right. So what does vitamin C specifically do to turn that floppy procollagen into strong tissue?
It acts as a cofactor in a step called hydroxylation. Vitamin C is needed to convert the amino acids proline into hydroxyproline and lysine into hydroxylase. This hydroxylation step is what allows the collagen's triple helices to cross-link with each other.
And that cross-linking is what gives it strength.
That's it. Think of it as the rebar that reinforces concrete. Without it, your tissues, your skin, your arteries, your bones, they're all incredibly fragile. That's scurvy.
Okay, now let's shift gears to its protective function. As an antioxidant, vitamin C is unique.
It is unique. As ascorbic acid, it's a powerful donor of hydrogen atoms to neutralize free radicals. But the key part is that after it donates those atoms, becoming dehydroascorbic acid, it's stable. It doesn't become a radical itself.
And it can be recharged.
It can be easily and quickly recharged back to its active form, and this allows it to regenerate other antioxidants in the network.
Which is key to its relationship with our next nutrient, vitamin E, fat guardian.
The fat guardian, I like that. Vitamin E is a family of fat-soluble alcohols, the tocopherols and tocotrienols. We mostly focus on alpha-tocopherol. Its long, fat-soluble tail positions it perfectly inside lipid membranes, the cell membrane, the mitochondrial membrane. It's the first line of defense in fatty environments.
And this protection extends to our circulatory system, specifically protecting LDL, the low-density lipoproteins. Why is that so important?
Because oxidized LDL is inflammatory. It's sticky. It's a key trigger for the plaque formation that clogs arteries. Vitamin E basically gets in there and interrupts the chain reaction of free radical damage inside that LDL particle, keeping it safe.
And this brings us to a huge supplement quality alert. Natural vitamin E is RRR alpha-tocopherol. But the synthetic stuff is labeled Dale alpha-tocopherol, which is a mix of 8 different isomers.
Exactly. And if you buy the synthetic form, you're getting a product where at least half of those isomers are. They're just not functional in the body.
So you're paying for a high milligram count, but you're only getting a fraction of the biological potency.
A fraction of the power you need to guard those critical membranes.
Okay, we've covered protection and structure. Now let's dive into the stability that governs everything inside the cell. The electrical charge from electrolytes.
Right. Electrolytes are mineral salts that, when you dissolve them in water, conduct electricity. They are the body's electrical grid. And we maintain this very sharp concentration gradient.
Sodium and chloride are highest outside the cell.
And potassium, magnesium, and phosphate are highest inside.
And keeping them separate requires constant energy. This is the job of the famous sodium-potassium pump.
It's arguably the single biggest energy expense in your resting body. This pump is constantly pushing 3 sodium ions out for every 2 potassium ions it pulls in. This maintains the cell membrane potential, that negative charge inside the cell. It's the baseline requirement for every nerve impulse, every muscle contraction. Without it, nothing fires.
So focusing on sodium, it also plays a huge role in fluid balance and blood pressure. Can you trace that hormonal pathway for us?
Sure. If your blood volume or pressure drops, your kidneys release an enzyme called renin. Renin kicks off a cascade that does 2 things. 1, it narrows your blood vessels, and 2, it tells the kidneys to retain more sodium.
And water follows sodium.
Water always follows sodium. So it pulls water back from the urine, which increases your blood volume and brings your pressure back up. The problem is, of course, that the average U.S. sodium intake it's just drastically high, often double the upper limit, which puts constant strain on this system.
Conversely, potassium is tied to the acid-alkaline balance. So if we eat too many acid-forming foods like meat and cheese, the body needs a buffer.
It absolutely does. Potassium-rich foods, fruits, and vegetables, they leave an alkaline residue that helps neutralize those metabolic acids. But if your diet is too low in that, the body's only other reliable buffer is your skeleton. It has to pull calcium from your bones to neutralize the blood.
Which increases osteoporosis risk over time.
Directly. It's a direct biochemical link.
That brings us perfectly to calcium, the most abundant mineral. 99% of it is locked away in bones and teeth as hydroxyapatite.
And calcium is the most tightly regulated ion in the blood. Its regulator is vitamin D. Let's just quickly review that activation pathway. It starts as cholecalciferol, D3, in the skin. Then it's stored in the liver as calcidiol. And then finally, it's activated in the kidneys to become calcitriol.
And calcitriol isn't just a vitamin, it's a potent steroid hormone. So its role goes beyond just bones.
Much, much beyond. Calcitriol is the master regulator of blood calcium. It tells the intestines to absorb more calcium and tells the kidneys to hold on to it. And because calcium ions are messengers for nearly every cell, the parathyroid glands monitor blood calcium constantly. If levels fall, they secrete PTH, which stimulates that calcitriol production.
So the practical takeaway here links back to diet. Excessive protein and sodium. They increase calcium loss in the urine.
Yes, significantly. Your body is forced to excrete calcium to manage the waste, which means your dietary need for calcium actually goes up. For instance, the average adult man needs an estimated 257 milligrams of extra dietary calcium every single day just to make up for those losses.
All right, time for the trace minerals, starting with iron, the oxygen and energy broker.
Huh?
The distribution is fascinating. 60% in hemoglobin, 15% in myoglobin, and 25% just in storage.
And iron sits right at the center of that heme structure, which gives it two vital roles. One, we all know, transporting oxygen, but two, it is essential for making energy inside the cell. The iron-containing cytochromes are the key players in the electron transport chain.
The ETC.
Right. Think of the ETC as a cellular hydroelectric dam. These iron complexes pass electrons down the line, and that's what generates almost all of your cell's usable ATP.
So the body cannot afford to lose iron. How does it control its level so tightly since we can't really excrete any excess?
It controls it with variable absorption. Your intestinal cells use a protein called mucosal ferritin to grab and store iron from food. If the body needs the iron, it gets released into the blood and transported by transferrin. If not, the intestinal cell just holds onto it, and when that cell is naturally shed a few days later, the iron goes with it.
But despite that control, iron is highly toxic in excess.
It carries severe warnings. Accidental overdose of iron supplements is actually the leading cause of poisoning death in kids under 6. And then you have genetic disorders like hemochromatosis, where people just keep absorbing iron, leading to chronic organ damage.
Let's move to zinc. It's a cofactor for almost 100 enzymes called metalloenzymes. The key examples in the pancreas, right?
Yes, zinc is required for synthesizing, storing, and releasing insulin. But structurally, it's also incredible. It stabilizes proteins by latching onto amino acids, letting them fold into specific shapes called zinc finger-like structures.
And that structure is critical
for many things, including the receptors for vitamin A and vitamin D. Without zinc, those receptors can't function correctly in the cell's nucleus.
That's a perfect example of synergy. So let's close the loop on metabolism by connecting two final trace minerals, iodine and selenium.
This is a beautiful piece of teamwork. You need iodine to make the storage thyroid hormone T4. But T4 is pretty inactive. To get to the active form, T3, the molecule that actually tells your cells to burn energy, an enzyme has to remove an iodine ion.
And that enzyme depends on selenium.
That deiodinase enzyme requires selenium to function. So you can have all the iodine in the world, but without selenium, your metabolism is stuck in low gear.
That is a fantastic way to tie it all together. So what are the core themes for the learner here? First, synergy. Micronutrients work as teams. The B vitamins, C and E, iodine and selenium. Second, energy is a complex assembly line, needing B vitamins and minerals like iron working together in the ETC.
And third, balance. That sensitive electrolyte equilibrium of sodium, potassium, and calcium is incredibly sensitive to what you eat. It proves that the integrity of your bones and the stability of your nerves rely on these precise quantities.
And for a final provocative thought, let's talk about the heavy metal toxin, lead.
Lead is chemically similar to essential ions like calcium and iron.
So it can displace them.
Exactly. Lead can take the place of iron in heme, so hemoglobin can't carry oxygen. And it displaces calcium in brain cells, disrupting signaling. But what provides passive protection is maintaining adequate nutrient status. Good calcium intake reduces lead absorption, and, crucially, it prevents the body from pulling lead that's already stored in your bones back into circulation.
So good nutrition is literally a defense against environmental threats.
The ultimate defense.
A phenomenal context.
Okay.
To reinforce your learning from this deep dive, here's a final scientific review question for you to think about.
Describe the interconnected roles of at least 4 separate micronutrients. Specifically, 1 B vitamin, 1 fat-soluble vitamin, and 2 minerals that are required for the synthesis, stability, or function of either collagen or the components of the electron transport chain.